Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's America at Night. We got lots to get to. A little bit later on, Bill Clevlin is somewhere in San Diego, California. Bill on the road is going to join us in his normal Thursday spot. Also, did anybody watch the Westminster Kennel show? The Doberman Pinschers won. We're going to talk to the owners of Penny, the winner of the Westminster Kennel Club. So we'll talk with them in hour number 2. A little bit later on this hour, Margaret Sullivan, former Washington Post columnist, is going to join us to talk about the demise of the Washington Post. Imagine this. The Washington Post cut out their entire sports department. Who is going to cover the Washington Nationals? Who is going to cover the football team, the basketball team, the hockey team, right? They got 4 or 5 different major league sports teams, not to mention all the college teams around there. Who's going to cover it? They don't have the Washington Post doesn't have a sports department. We'll talk with Margaret Sullivan about that a little bit later on in this hour. But speaking of sports, the big game, the Super Bowl, is Sunday. Also the Olympics Sunday. And one of the big things this year isn't necessarily the legalized gambling, though it is. It's the prediction markets. It's the poly markets. It's the Kalshi. Those are the hottest things going, completely and utterly unregulated, and it is flying off the shelves. And so we wanted to do a little deeper dive into these poly markets and find out the who, the what, the why. And so we've invited back our guest who was on a couple months ago, who wrote the book Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling, Jonathan Cohen, the author of that book. Jonathan, welcome back to America at Night.
Hey, I was hoping to stay on to talk to the Westminster Dog Show, folks, but I guess we can talk about gambling if we have to.
Well, we can gamble on which dog is going to win, so we can do that too, I guess.
You probably could, yeah.
You were on a couple weeks ago talking about the book, and we wanted to invite you back because these prediction markets, the Super Bowl used to be known for these prop bets. Now, I guess society is one big giant prop bet. Do we have any idea how big this thing is going to get for the Super Bowl?
So, for reference, based on reporting from the American Gaming Association, Americans are going to legally bet around $1.7 billion on sports on the Super Bowl, specifically through state-licensed sports books. And to actually answer your question, no, we have no freaking idea because these prediction markets, as you said, are unregulated to very lightly regulated, and it's also really hard. I'll spare you the details of the mechanics, but it's not exactly apples to oranges when you look at how much money is spent on the prediction market versus how much is bet on a traditional sports book. So we have no idea. These companies are complete black boxes, which is actually indicative of all sorts of problems that I think we should have with the rise of prediction markets today.
Right. So the legalized gambling in the States is at least regulated, and I'm using that in air quotes, and right. taxed in some way. So the state ends up getting something. But but Kalshi is unregulated and really, I don't even think taxed, right?
That's right. It's not taxed. Kalshi claims, and the prediction markets claim, that they are not gambling websites, that they are investment platforms, and that as a result, they are regulated not by state governments, which regulate gambling, but by the Commodities Future Trading Commission, an agency that I'm sure no one other than me has ever heard of, and which was not designed to regulate an agency or a product that is on millions of people's cell phones. It was invented to regulate financial derivatives in the 1970s, and it is completely ill-suited to regulate a mass retail product. As a result, there basically are no regulations. These companies are basically doing whatever they want, and we are sort of left powerless to stop them.
Now, now explain this to people because I don't really quite understand. I understand the point system, right? Seattle's favored, I don't know, last I saw was 4.5 points.
4.5, yeah.
Right, yeah. So Seattle's favored to win by 4.5, which means Seattle has to win by 5 for them to cover the point spread. Okay, that makes sense to a lot of people. But I'm looking on Kalshi here, and it has Seattle at 69% versus New England at 33%. Explain that. What does that mean exactly?
Right. So when you this is, I don't want to sound like an ad for an explainer
Right.
video for Kalshi.
Right.
I will explain how they work. And just for the record, if you scroll down a little bit on Kalshi, you can find a point spread version of the bet on the Super Bowl, which is one of the other things that makes these very obviously gambling apps. But on prediction markets, you're betting basically you're purchasing an event contract basically on a scale from 1 to 99. And if an event is extremely unlikely, if I want to buy odds that LeBron James is going to be elected the next president of the United States, I can buy that contract for 1 cent. And if LeBron James is in fact elected president of the United States, my 1 cent, each 1 cent contract I buy becomes valued at $1. So I profit 99 cents for each contract I buy. In the same way, Seattle has, you said, a 70 or 64% chance, I think
Right.
it was the other day.
Yeah.
Were they to win, you would make a 36-cent profit on each contract you bought. Were they to lose, you would lose all of your money. But of course, the point of prediction markets isn't just about what is actually going to happen. It's about what other people think is going to happen. So you could buy it at 64. Let's say they score the opening touchdown. The odds go up to 73, and then you could sell off and make a 9-cent profit along the way. I know half your listeners are asleep, but the ones who are investors know what I'm talking about.
So so it's literally like a derivative, and it's a contract in that contract, then the price of that bond more or less moves up and down with the markets.
That's right. I currently have a $200 contract on whether Gavin Newsom is going to be the 2028 Democratic presidential nominee. Not because I actually think he's going to be, but because I think his odds are going to go up. And once his odds do go up, I'm going to sell out and make a nice little profit in the interim.
Okay, now here's the next thing that I don't think people quite understand. I'm looking at, again, Kalshi, and it has a contract that says which brands will advertise during the game. And then it has a list of all these different companies. Now, isn't that already predetermined? Doesn't somebody already know that inside NBC? Isn't somebody in the traffic department or the advertising department know this? And so it's a rigged game. They can bet on this because they already know the outcome?
100%. And this is, of course, true for all sorts of things, right? This is true for, will the United States invade Greenland, right? Someone in the Trump administration would, of course, know that and potentially be able to gamble with that. But yes, this is, to me, what makes these not only gambling platforms, but like unserious gambling platforms and gambling platforms that are crying out for regulation because they insist, and the CEO of Kalshi just tweeted out today, because of course he's using Twitter to communicate his company's policies, a new sort of crackdown they're doing on insider trading. But unless there is a agency that is actually holding their feet to the fire, they're going to do what it looks like insider trading regulation, but they don't actually have to. So yes, they're offering markets on predetermined. Chris Hayes tweeted about this the other day, that he recorded a segment, I think it was on Stephen Colbert, and then you could bet on the words Chris Hayes said during his interview with Stephen Colbert, but he had recorded it 6 hours ago. So he could have gone home, made a cup of tea, and then made a couple $1,000s gambling on himself. It just makes no sense, and I really, even my best, most steelman case, I can't justify why this is an investment platform and why this should exist, and why this should be able to exist on every 18-year-old's phone across the country.
Yeah, you brought up should America invade Greenland. That actually happened when, right? That was the story a couple weeks ago when we took out Nicolas Maduro. Somebody right before the invasion made a large bet and made, I don't know, it was like $500,000 because we invaded Venezuela, and he bet it like 15 minutes before we went in. And some paid and some didn't, right? I mean, that was a major controversy.
That's right. And to me, it's one thing, and Nate Silver makes this argument in his book about gambling. On paper, insider information should be an asset for prediction markets. If prediction markets, as they claim, are sort of these truth-telling devices, are ways to assess the wisdom of the crowd, then the people who have the most wisdom are the ones with insider information. And the ways that we would leverage and use prediction markets is to let that insider information rise to the top. But of course, these companies want to be recognized as legitimate financial instruments. So they can't say, "Hey, we love insider information. Come use your insider information to make money." So they have to claim they're against insider information, while of course actually creating dozens of daily opportunities for people with inside information to screw over all the other users of the platform.
So Jonathan Cohen, our guest, he wrote a book that's getting a lot of attention called Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling. We're not even touching on the actual addiction part of this and people going down a rabbit hole and losing all sorts of money. But these are just two websites. There's talk that FanDuel's going to get into this, DraftKings going to get into this. You can have casinos getting into this. You can have states getting into this. You can have mom and pop restaurants getting into this. If it's unregulated and all you need is an app, what's to stop everybody from doing this?
Yeah, and so it's true. This is happening. FanDuel, DraftKings, and Fanatics is the other big one. Are these sort of traditional sportsbook companies that are launching their own, and they're doing it in part because a key aspect of prediction markets that I sort of implied, but I want to make explicit, is that they are not just available for people who are 18 through 20. Most sports betting in most states, sports gambling is only 21 plus. But prediction markets are available in all 50 states, including in states that do not have legal sports gambling yet. Most conspicuously, Texas and California. So Fanatics, FanDuel, DraftKings, they don't want to sort of sit on the sideline and let Kalshi, let Polymarket sort of run wild and offer sports betting in those states. They want to capture market share. They want to sort of keep their seat warm for when sports betting does arrive in those states. And again, all of this is amounting to whether states choose it or not. Whether Utah and Hawaii have no legal form of gambling whatsoever, but anyone in Utah can bet on the Super Bowl via the prediction market, completely against the rulings and the decisions of Utah voters and Utah lawmakers.
What's going on in Vegas in the sports book? Is anybody flying to Vegas to bet on the Super Bowl anymore?
Well, Vegas has its own problems. I don't know if you've heard about this, but tourism, the indications are that tourism is way, way, way down. And I think that there's probably a confluence of a couple of factors. The first is the spread of sports gambling, right, and the way that it's been normalized, the way that people are doing it on their phones. Second, the decline of international tourism in the U.S., right, is making a huge dent across the country, but then especially on somewhere like Las Vegas. You used to get a lot of people from Canada, a lot of people from China, across the world who would want to come to Vegas of all places. And then also, I actually don't mind. I'll make fun of NBAs. You get a bunch of MBAs running these casino companies now who are just trying to, by all accounts, sort of nickel and dime people at every opportunity. Parking there used to be free. Now it's not. You can't find a $5 blackjack table anymore. There's just no deals. There used to be a deal. You used to be able to sort of stay and feel like you're having a good time and you weren't sort of having to fork over money every time you turned around. But that's the experience now. So I think all of those things create this noxious cocktail for the city that just has been setting on a decline, as ironically as gambling has spread across the rest of the country.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. Jonathan Cohen is the author, Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Keep your phone on. We reserve the right to call you back anytime. Do you have a prediction on the Super Bowl this Sunday?
Okay, I don't know if I have a prediction, but I have a thought. I have a theory, right? I don't know when we all of a sudden decided that Sam Darnold was the greatest quarterback in American history and that the Seahawks should be favored by -4.5 just because they have the best wide receiver in the game. So I don't know if this is going to happen. I think the Seahawks defense is good enough that they can keep it, that the Patriots, there's no way the Patriots are going to run away with it. But I think there's let's say 20-30% chance that Sam Darnold just turns into the old Sam Darnold. And the Seahawks can't do anything, and this is really, really close. So I like the Patriots just to cover at the very least of the 4.5. I just think that line is too big.
All right. Well, I'll tell you when they thought Sam Darnold was a great quarterback. The second he took his Jets jersey off and went somewhere else.
Right. By default, he became that much better.
Speaking as a true and long-suffering Jets fan. Jonathan Cohen, thanks for checking in on a busy week. Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling. Thanks for checking in, Jonathan.
Good luck with your bets this weekend.
You got it. Thanks. I will not be betting, but I don't know. I'm just not a bettor. Just not a gambler. I'll play the craps every once in a while, but I haven't been to a casino in forever. But whatever. All right, we're just getting started. Stay right there. America at Night. Back in a moment.
From the heart of America, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, a couple of days ago, I said maybe you don't want to ask Bill and Hillary to testify because that might boomerang and might make Donald Trump look bad. And I believe I was called a liberal and woke and every other nightmare. Well, guess who agrees with me that Hillary and Bill shouldn't, I didn't say shouldn't, but they shouldn't force them to. Guess who thinks Bill and Hillary shouldn't testify? That's right. President Donald Trump. Donald Trump said, "It bothers me that someone is going after Bill Clinton." He said, "See, I like Bill Clinton." Also, Hillary says, "Stop playing games. If I'm going to testify in the House Oversight Committee on the Jeffrey Epstein files, let's do it in public so we all can hear what's going on." The former First Lady and the former President Bill Clinton have agreed to testify later this month as part of the investigation that the committee is putting on. She, however, wants it to be public. We're going to do it. We're going to do it under oath. They keep moving the goalposts. She says they've ignored all of it. Hillary Clinton wanting to testify in public. How about that? Talk about fireworks. Chairman James Comer has not said anything whether or not he would or wouldn't allow this to be in the open. But how interesting would it be if this were in the open? Hillary Clinton claims she never met Jeffrey Epstein. She's never talked to Jeffrey Epstein. So why do you want that First Lady testifying? Wouldn't you rather have Melania Trump testify? She's the one who's been seen at all the parties. She was the one that was introduced. Wasn't it Jeffrey Epstein or one of them that introduced them to Donald Trump? So, again, I reiterate what I said. Be careful what you wish for, because if you're going to force Bill Clinton to testify and Hillary Clinton in this thing, at some point, Donald Trump's going to look really bad not wanting to testify in front of this Jeffrey Epstein committee. So if I'm woke, I guess Donald Trump is woke too, because Donald Trump had the same thought I did. Stay right there. Next half hour, we're going to talk to Margaret Sullivan, former columnist for the Washington Post, on just what did the Washington Post do to themselves? And what are the ramifications of all of it? Stay right there. America at Night, just getting started.
You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Welcome to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Welcome back, America at Night. The devastating news, the Washington Post cuts half or a third of their staff. What does that mean for local journalism, and where do we go from here? Margaret Sullivan, who used to be a columnist for the Washington Post, she now writes for The Guardian. She has a Substack. She's also the executive director of the Craig Newmark Center for Journalism Ethics and Security at Columbia Journalism School. Margaret Sullivan, welcome to America at Night.
Thank you very much for having me.
Before we wring our hands of this, just practically, if you're a fan of the Commanders or the Nationals or the Wizards, how are you going to get your news if you live in the Washington, D.C. area?
Right, and what you're alluding to is that the Washington Post has pretty much dismantled its sports section. I mean, the section itself is going to be gone, and the staff is essentially gone. So, I don't know the answer to that. I think the Post has been a really fantastic sports section and has, done amazing work, not just with local, sort of the local teams that you mentioned, but also the Olympics and, the Super Bowl and all the different sports events with great columnists. And, it's really just shocking to see that go away because to me, sports is a really important part of a local news operation.
And I don't think people understand, even just sticking with sports for a second, right? You have the national guys talk about sports, but where do the national guys get their tips from, get their leads from, get their story ideas, and then expand on it. They get it from the local newspaper. So if the local newspaper isn't digging up the stories for the Washington Nationals, the national guys aren't going to be able to say, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let me find out more about that." So it's a pipeline in a sense, and once you cut off that pipeline, there are all sorts of ramifications.
That's right, and this is not only true for sports, but it's true for so much of this whole thing. Is that everyone is quick to say, "Well, there are so many independent voices out there, and people starting up their own newsletters," and I'm one of them. I have one, but where do we get the material for that? We get it from these legacy news organizations in large part, from the New York Times, from the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the AP. So if those big ones that everyone wants to say are bad and biased and all of that, if they go away, our sources of information dry up. And just as you say, it is a pipeline.
So talk for a moment about the actual finances of this. The New York Times just announced they're raising their dividend. They just announced more digital subscribers. The New York Times is very, very healthy financially and with subscribers. The Wall Street Journal doing very, very well. So what was it about the Washington Post that couldn't pivot and survive in this time?
So, there was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, just a few years ago during the first Trump administration, when the Washington Post was profitable. We don't know the exact numbers because it's privately held by Jeff Bezos, but it was announced internally that the paper was turning a profit, and that seemed really positive, and the paper was doing great, Pulitzer Prize winning work. But the difference between the Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Post is that, to some extent, the Times has the ability to tap into a fully global audience. So it's much broader scope. The Post can try to do that, but for a lot of people, they're going to choose one. And what are they going to choose? Probably the bigger, sort of more established one, the one that has more of a global reputation. So I think that's part of it. And then another part of it is there have been some self-inflicted body blows just in the past year and a half that have come internally at the Post. And I think the one that people might know about or be interested in is that the Post was just about ready to endorse Kamala Harris for president. And Jeff Bezos got out in front of that and said, "Nope, we're not doing that." And, whatever you think about endorsements, and there is a range of opinions about that, the readership felt like this was a clear case of ownership interfering with editorial independence. And some 250,000 people, subscribers, decided to cancel their subscriptions. And then there have been other things like that. So some of this is really coming from inside, and these are dumb decisions that don't help the overall effort. If the thing is really about being financially viable, this isn't how you do it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I get that the current audience was upset with that move and decided to protest and cancel their subscription. The other side would say, well, wait a minute. Ownership was already putting their thumb on the scale on the coverage. They were just being more neutral, and the Democrats and the liberals can't handle the Washington Post being more down the middle.
Right. I mean, I think that one of the real problems with that, spiking, as we like to say in the news business, spiking or killing that editorial was the timing. I mean, you could say to yourself, I don't really get why newspapers have to do these endorsements. And that shows that they're biased when they do that. Why do we have to have that? And that's an argument that is a legitimate one. But when it comes just moments, it was the 11th hour before the election, at a time when, when Jeff Bezos is clearly trying to cozy up to Trump, it sent this message that, wow, the Washington Post is not giving it to us straight. It's really not the way we want our paper to behave.
The other interesting thing is Jeff Bezos is a pretty smart guy. He had to, or somebody, either he had to realize or somebody had to get to him and say, look, here's the fallout. If you do this, we're going to lose a lot of readership, but we're not going to gain a lot in the process, right? It isn't like all of a sudden these conservatives are going to come flocking to the Washington Post because
That's right.
you spiked this. So you upset a large part of your audience, pleasing a lot of people who don't even buy your newspaper. So what was the point financially other than looking good for President Trump?
It's arguably it had an audience of one, and the audience of one undoubtedly was very, very pleased. The other thing that's gone on between Bezos and Trump is that Amazon, and I think we can certainly agree that Jeff Bezos has a lot to do with how Amazon behaves, but Amazon has put $75 million behind this new Melania documentary, $40 million to get the licensing rights, and another big chunk to promote it. And is it a great film? I don't think so. So that too is a case of getting to so that Trump feels you're in his corner. And why would Bezos want that? Well, he has other things on his plate other than the Washington Post. He's got Amazon. He's got his space company, Blue Origin. And, he's looking out for those commercial interests by doing these other things. It's not really subtle. We can see it happening before our eyes. And the really weird thing is that he was not this way at all during the first Trump administration. He really, Trump was very critical of the Post. You might remember the Amazon, Washington compost and all of that. And he stood pretty strong with a stiff spine, but that has changed.
He also hasn't said anything about this cut either. He's been very silent, hasn't he?
Very silent. And even the publisher, his handpicked guy, Will Lewis, who came from Murdoch World, has been just completely not communicating on this. And I think that is really very felt internally. Like, okay, maybe you feel you need to do some things for business reasons, but could you explain your strategy? What's the plan going forward here? But there's been very little of that and nothing from Bezos himself or from his publisher, Will Lewis.
Yeah, that's the next question is how are they going to compete with 1/3 of the people not there? They've closed down bureaus in San Francisco and all over the world. And so what's the strategy going forward? How are they going to continue on as a functioning newspaper? And so I don't know if it's people say the sky is falling, but Margaret Sullivan, do you really think, look in your crystal ball, 5-6 years from now, do you think the Washington Post is still existing in some way, shape, or form?
Well, one thing I've learned along the way is that journalists are really terrible at making predictions, so I try not to look in that crystal ball. But I do think, there are still 400 or 450 people in that newsroom. It was a very large newsroom. You can still do some great journalism. The question is, what does the immediate future look like, and what does the future, a year from now look like? Do you have a strategy? Is any of this going to work? Do people who were subscribing to the Washington Post because of local sports and, democracy coverage, are they gone, and are they gone for good? And then what happens? But I can't really play it out. I think it will exist. I think it will never be what it was.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is, we have to separate, because the Washington Post was both a national newspaper and a local newspaper as well. And so there are a lot of people covering national news and covering Washington, D.C. and the Capitol. But I don't know a lot of people who are covering City Hall in Washington, D.C. and all the troubles and scandals and scams and everything else. And so who's going to watch this store locally for Washington, D.C. now that the Washington Post has been gutted?
Right. Well, the Metro staff, which does exactly the work you're talking about, has been very, very cut back in recent years, and now again. So, I think that's a real problem, and that's a problem that goes across the entire country, is that local journalism, particularly local newspaper journalism, has been really decimated, and people know in every market that you're in that their local paper ain't what it used to be. And I mean, I was the top editor of my hometown daily, the Buffalo News, and we had a staff of 200, and now they're down to something like 50. You cannot do the same job, and that will be the case in Washington as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say that in some communities, in some localities and regions, an all-digital news organization has cropped up. You know, nature abhors a vacuum, right? So like in Baltimore, this outfit called the Baltimore Banner has started up just in recent years, and they're really good. And that's in part because the Baltimore Sun was so weakened and you know, had really withered. So, you know, something like that could start to crop up.
Well, and that's why I think last moment here for Margaret Sullivan, thank you for your time. We appreciate it on a very busy day and a very, very busy topic, and we appreciate you spending a couple minutes with us. But that's why you have to give credit for the New York Times, right? They've been able to pivot. It's not just the news coverage. It's the Wordle. It's the connections. Right. It's the, right, they bought The Athletic. You know,
the cooking app.
Right.
The cooking app.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They've played it very smart, and the strategy has worked, and they haven't destroyed the core news product along the way. I mean, which is what's happening at the Post, is you're actually trying to save something by making it worse.
Yeah. Back in the day, right, it was classifieds. It was cartoons. It was the comics. It was the sports page, right? That's what drew us all to the newspaper as kids. And you have to wonder going forward if the kids will still gravitate towards these news sites without some of those things that sort of lure them in. But I guess that's a story for another day.
That's a story for another day. We have to go to them on TikTok, obviously.
Margaret, can you help me out with the whole connections on the New York Times? Because I find some of those connections pretty weak, and I need to talk to the editor over there.
It's like in the old days when I was editor of the Buffalo News, and people wanted to tell me that their paper landed in the bushes, and couldn't it be put under their doorstep? And I would say that actually not my department.
Can you put the cup of coffee on me for me while I'm reading the newspaper?
Exactly right.
Margaret Sullivan, she is with the Columbia Journalism School. She's also a former columnist for the Washington Post, and she's nice enough to spend a couple minutes with us. Also, you can read her at The Guardian and on Substack, her newsletter. Margaret Sullivan, thank you very much for your time. Good luck down the road, and hopefully we chat sometime soon.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. America at Night, back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
It is the second oldest sporting event in the United States. We're talking about the Westminster Kennel Show. The 150th was this past weekend, and a Doberman Pinscher won. We're going to talk to the owner of that dog. Maybe we'll talk to the dog, too. We'll see how it turns out. We're going to do that next hour. Before we finish up this hour, how about this? Bitcoin is down nearly 40% over the last year. Gold futures have gained 61%. They're going in opposite directions. Bitcoin is down, gold is up. Other cryptocurrencies are not having a good time either. Ether pulled back 33% this week. Solana, that hit $88 on Thursday. That's today. That's about 2-year low. That cryptocurrency is off nearly 40% for the week. Some traders have suggested that $70,000 is the level to watch. $70,000. If Bitcoin reaches $70,000, it could trigger further declines. Well, you know what? They're absolutely right, because today Bitcoin dropped all the way down to $60,000. It rebounded a little bit. Now it's at about $65,000. So there's a lot of people who are saying that if it gets past 70, that's a key line of demarcation, and it might even drop more. Who knows? I have no Bitcoin, so Don't come and rob me, steal me, kidnap me. I don't have any Bitcoin, never had any Bitcoin. Just sort of watching from the sidelines. I don't really quite understand what it is. Though I wish I would have bought it when it was 2 cents or 1/10 of 1 cent. Got all the way up to 100 and I don't know what's the all-time high. The all-time high at the Bitcoin was 126,000. Now it is trading below what it was when Donald Trump took office. So it's now underwater since the Trump administration has embraced cryptocurrency, which is kind of interesting because, right, he was going to be the crypto czar. He was going to be regulate it and mainstream it, and it was going to take over the world. But now it still might. But it's not having a good run these last couple of weeks. It's down 40% this year. Gold is up 60% this year. Thought that was kind of interesting. All right. Stay right there. When we come back, we're going to check in with the Westminster Kennel Dog Show. And then Bill Clevlin, Bill on the road. Where is he going to be? He's somewhere in San Diego, and he's going to check in from San Diego. Apparently he had a book signing, found a cool museum. So we'll check in with all of that. And a little programming note, we have found Duke Ziebert's jingle. We put out an APB last week, Duke Ziebert's jingle. We have found it. When are we going to play it? Of course, Duke Ziebert, that's how Larry King ended the show, right? With the Duke Ziebert jingle. He was headed off to Duke Ziebert's for a little after-show cocktail and dinner. Stay tuned for that as we honor Larry King. Got to do something to honor Jim, too. Stay right there. We're just getting started. Our executive director is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, Bill Clevlin, Bill on the road, is in the green room. He's getting his makeup on. We'll check in with him in the second half of this hour. And then, of course, open phones and text messages and all that good stuff next hour. This first half hour, we're going to talk about the Westminster Kennel Club and the 150th showing. The winner was Penny the Doberman. Greg Chan, the owner of Penny, joins us. Greg, thanks for joining us on America at Night.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
How surprised were you, or were you expecting it?
Well, we weren't expecting it. Overwhelmed was probably the word to use. When the judge pointed at Penny and Andy, the handler, it's just an unbelievable feeling. It's sort of surreal, actually.
Yeah. Penny, the Doberman, is 4 years old. Give us a sense. A lot of people might watch the show, but a lot of people don't know the backstory. Are you big dog owners? Is this the first time you've done this? Have you competed for years? Tell us how you got there.
Well, actually, we're the breeder of Penny as well. So we bred Penny, and we've known her since the day she came into this earth. So we've been breeding for about 14 years now, my wife and I, and we had quite a few champions, but Penny was something special when she came into the world.
It took 4 years. Is that a normal age? Tell us about the age. Is this young? Is this old? Is this right in line with other owners or other dog years of age?
Yeah, well, for it's like any other even a person, an athlete, right? So it takes time for them to mature. Time to learn the game and stuff. So around 4 years old, whether it be a female like Penny or a male, they're at their maturity. They're at basically the right time to be showing.
Yeah, it starts off. Give us a sense of the preliminaries, right? It doesn't start off at the finals. There's something like 2,500 dogs that compete in this. So tell us about some of the early rounds.
So the early rounds, basically, there's about 200 breeds in the American Kennel Club, and she has to go through the Doberman ring first, Doberman Pinscher ring. So the Doberman Pinschers, there were 30 at this show in the Doberman Pinscher ring. So she has to win that first. So they have to win their specific breed first, and then they go into the group. There are 7 groups in the 8 American Kennel Club. So Penny is part of the working group. There's Doberman Pinschers, there's Boxers, there's Alaska Malamutes. There's Newfoundlands. So the working group is specific. So she has to go into the working group. There's approximately about 30 to 32 dogs in the working group of each breed. And then she has to compete there. And then if she wins that group, then she goes in the best in show, which is the best of each of the 7 groups.
I mean, that's it. How long does that take? That must take weeks for all that to happen.
Though, you know what? They do it in 2 days at the Westminster Kennel Club. The normal shows throughout the summer or the winter years, it takes about a day to do a whole show.
Holy mackerel. Greg, I didn't know that there's only one judge. One person decides this whole thing?
Yeah, well, at the breed level, there's a different judge. Then when they go to the group, there's a different judge. And then for best in show, there's individual judge.
I find that odd. What's the reasoning behind one judge?
Well, I'm assuming it's just there's so many good judges out there, and they're all so qualified. They know all the breeds. The best in show judge is usually especially at Westminster, is someone who's been around quite a while as a judge, and they know specifically all 7 groups, like all the breeds. So so that's how that works.
What is the judge looking for?
Well, each breed has a standard, a written standard. So for the Doberman Pinschers, there is a written standard, and as for Penny, she's about pretty close to the standard as it is, and so what the judge is looking for is each individual dog from the groups. He's looking at the standard, and he's looking at the dog itself. Okay, how close is that one to the actual standard of that breed? And then the one who looks the closest and performs the best that day is usually the one that they choose.
And so, did she have a good day? Was that her normal day? Was it an average day, or did she really have a good day that day?
She didn't put a foot out of place. She showed well. She showed, the crowd was electric. They were there. She was feeding off the crowd, so she showed really, really well. If you talk to some of the spectators and the president, Don Sturts of the Westminster Kennel Club, he's basically where she didn't put a foot out of place, and she just stole the show.
Yeah. Was this your first win?
This was, for best in show, this is actually her 66th in 2 years. This is our first big win. Westminster Kennel Club is, as a breeder, it is the pinnacle of shows. We call it the Super Bowl of dog shows, or the World Series of dog shows. So when you go to this show, and if you win that's a dream come true. That's the big one.
Yeah. No. So how's the week been? Is it everything you thought it would be?
We were there last year. We did well. We didn't win the whole thing, but we did well. So that was our first experience with Westminster. Before that, my wife and I used to just sit and watch on TV, and as breeders would think, maybe one day we'll have a dog in that show. And then obviously this year we came back for our second year, and Penny was the top working dog in the country for her group, and then she was number 2 all breeds. So we went in, excited. You never know though, right? So, but we knew she had an opportunity to compete.
You always been a dog lover? Did you come late to the game?
You know what? I married into this dog game. My wife has been engulfed in dogs for her whole life. She's been passionate. She's been into Dobermans since Magnum PI, and so we got together, and I married into it, and we just started breeding. She wanted to breed, so obviously I joined her, and we've had some good success, and then eventually it's turned out to what happened on Tuesday night to achieving the pinnacle of dog shows.
Yeah, sure. Isn't it? I don't know what the word is. Ironic, sad, poignant that Catherine O'Hara passes away right around the time of the Westminster Kennel Club. There was a moment of silence for her, was there not, at the event?
Yes, it is sad. We just happened to watch the movie Best in Show, 5 or 6 days before we went to New York City last week, and then they did a very nice tribute on the jumbotron at Madison Square Garden. So it was really nice.
Yeah. So now, what happens? Does Penny? Is it like a Triple Crown winner where you will no longer put her in competitions? What happens to Penny now that she's a winner?
Well, she's home now. She's with us. She's actually here on the couch sleeping. She's retired from showing. She was at it for 2 years, and she did really well, and she made us proud. She made our breed proud by being out there. And now that she's won this prestigious award, she's retired. She's home now. She's gonna be a therapy dog because she enjoys being with people and enjoying, being loved, and so that's one thing. And then secondly, she's gonna be bred. She's gonna have puppies.
So she will then be bred and then have offspring, and who knows, maybe one of those offspring will someday try and defend her title at the Westminster Kennel Club.
Yeah, absolutely, and that would only be another dream if that happened. But yeah, she'll only be bred twice. We only do it twice. We're not like some breeders. She's done her job. She's done everything we asked her to do. So she'll be bred twice, and then she's going to just retire here at home as the queen of the household.
Yeah. As a breeder, forgive me for this rudimentary question, but as a breeder, how much training are you doing? I mean, are you training her to sit and stand and stay? And I mean, that's all part of this as well, right?
Well, when they come into the world and they're puppies, my wife and I, we're watching from day one. And as soon as they start walking, if they're putting their feet in the right place, if their conformation looks good, they do the right things. We start at that point to determine what is a pet, what is a show dog, and our pets are loved just as much as the show dogs, and we're trying to pick the right pet to go to the right home. But as for a show dog, yeah, it's as long as they put their feet in the right place, their attitude. With Penny, she had 9 in her litter. She wanted to be the center of attention. She did not want anybody else to be with us, with the humans, and it was kind of cute, actually. So she always wanted to be the center of attention. When we start stacking them, like show stacking them, when at about 6 weeks old, she didn't move. She didn't put a foot out of place. She really enjoyed it. She was receptive to the bait, and so at that time we saw the promise that she had the potential to be successful.
Greg Chan, owner of Penny the Doberman, who won the 150th Westminster Kennel Club for another couple minutes are here. Greg, money-wise, what do you win? How much money do you win for winning the prize?
There is zero money involved. It's just basically ribbons, trophies, and prestige.
Zero money, no money, nothing.
No money, nothing. No.
What about like an endorsement from like Ralston Purina or something? Do you see that coming down the pike?
No, they don't do it that way. Purina is very supportive of the dog show community, as is Royal Canin, but no, they don't. There's no monetary.
No NIL money or anything like that.
No.
Greg, what are you gonna do next year? Are you gonna have another Doberman in, or what's the plan for next year?
Oh, right now we're just gonna focus on Penny, and she's home now, so we're just gonna, have. Hopefully, she has puppies, and we'll raise those puppies, and then, and just move forward, and that's it.
Yeah, Greg Chan, owner of Penny the Doberman. Hey, thank you for joining us tonight. Congratulations on the big win, and thanks for giving us a little primer into the Westminster Kennel Club. I didn't know much about it, but I think it's fascinating. You're into it, and thank you for joining us. Well,
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You got it. Greg Chan, congratulations, owner of Penny the Doberman, who won the Westminster Kennel Club earlier in the week. And it is ironic, poignant, sad that Catherine O'Hara, who did such a great job in that great movie, Best in Show, with Eugene Levy, she passes away right at the same time they're doing the 150th kennel show. I find that it's interesting, unique, strange, sad, but they did give a moment of silence for her. A movie that it was really, really very funny, but something you watch it on TV. I don't know what I'm watching. It's sort of like I'm watching cricket. When I watch cricket, I don't really know what I'm watching. It's very confusing. But I'm glad we had a chance to meet Greg and his Doberman Pinscher. Stay right there. America at Night. Back in a moment.
Live from coast to coast, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Relax. You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, open phones next hour. Bill on the road coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Listen to this story that should be getting a lot of attention. I have had women tell me that they would much rather take a cab ride with a self-driving car, right, an Uber or a Waymo without a driver, than a Uber or Lyft. And I said, what? That's weird. Why would you do that? They said, I feel safer in a driverless car than getting into an Uber, which I thought was really interesting. I never thought that. As a man, I don't necessarily, right, have those fears. But as a woman, right, they're much more aware of their surroundings when it comes to, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The reason why I bring that up is because a federal jury today sided with a woman and ordered to pay Uber $8.5 million. She says that she was a passenger. She called Uber from her boyfriend's house. She was drunk. She called the Uber from the boyfriend's house to get home safe. And on the way home, the Uber driver pulled into a dark parking lot, got in the back seat, and raped her. The Uber maintained all along that they were not liable for the misconduct of the drivers because the drivers are independent contractors and not employees. The jury said in this instance, not so fast. Wait a minute here. You still have some responsibility. And they awarded her $8.5 million. Now, the judge was, her lawyers were asking for a lot more, but the jury ruled that Uber did have some responsibility with this. A lot of people are saying this is a test case, if you will. It now opens up Uber to all sorts of other pending sexual assault and sexual misconduct lawsuits that accuse the company of safety failures. Uber says, hey, wait a minute, not so fast. We're going to appeal this. So this is one of the steps along the way, but really interesting. One of the other interesting things about this case is that that Uber driver who was, I guess, found guilty today, right? Uber was found guilty today, but the driver's name, he's never been charged with a crime, and Uber fired him and won't let him, I guess, drive for them anymore, obviously. But his name was never mentioned, and he was never charged with rape, which I find very bizarre, right? The driver did not face criminal charges and was not named in the suit. He's been barred from Uber, which makes sense, but the man's still out there. That seems bizarre to me. And that's why when women say, hey, I don't want to take an Uber, I'd much rather take a driverless cab or a driverless car to get me where I'm going than an Uber driver. Now, look, 99.9% of the Uber rides are safe and everything's fine, right? It's that 1%. But if you've got, a million Uber rides, what's 1% of an Uber ride, right? I mean, of a million Uber rides. So it's a real thing. So I don't know. This stay tuned for this lawsuit. This one's not going away because Uber is here to stay, Lyft is here to stay, ride sharing's here to stay, and who's responsible? God forbid when the passenger gets assaulted by the driver. She won $8.5 million in this case. That sort of caught my attention today. Kind of interesting. All right. The text line is 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. By the way, that was in Phoenix, Arizona, where that jury gave Jalen Dean $8.5 million. The jury said one of its drivers is guilty and Uber is guilty. He is, even though he is an independent contractor, Uber is still on the hook for $8.5 million. Bill on the road. We'll lighten it up. With Bill on the road, we'll find out where he is next. You can text your comments or call 1-844-262-4729. Open phones coming up next hour. Stay right there. America at Night, back in a moment.
Coming to you from the heart of the nation, This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Open phones next hour. This hour, it's Thursday, and we need to check in with Bill Clevlin, BillOnTheRoad.com, our roving correspondent. Good morning, Bill Clevlin.
Hello, McGraw.
Last week, we were talking Kansas. This week, you're back somewhere in California. Where are you?
I am in the beautiful coastal town of Carlsbad, California. Have you ever heard of Carlsbad, California?
I thought there was a Carlsbad, New Mexico.
There is a Carlsbad, New Mexico. That's where Carlsbad Caverns is located.
Okay, but you're not in the caverns. You're just on the beach.
Hang on, let me check. Nope, not in the caverns. I just take a look around, At the end of the day, I don't know where I am.
Where is Carlsbad, California?
So, if you know anything about the Pacific Coast and you've been to maybe San Diego, Carlsbad is just north of San Diego. I'd say probably 30 minutes or so from the northern part of San Diego. And and if you know where Oceanside, California is, it's just to the south of Oceanside. And honestly, over the last few years when I've been doing these visits out to California, I've been trying to pay attention to some of these, coastal towns because they all have character, they all have interesting things, and so Carlsbad was one that I wanted to focus on because honestly, I'd never been there. I know I had driven by Carlsbad probably 20 times over the last 10 years or whatever, and so so I was really excited to stop the car and spend a few days here.
Beautiful. All right, good. So I'm assuming you're somewhere on the water, right? That's what it's known for?
Yeah, so I'm at the Hilton Garden Inn, which, to be honest, I don't really give a big plug to a lot of chain hotels, but I got to tell you, this place has been awesome, and you're right, it's right on the water, right at Carlsbad Beach, great views of the ocean and sunsets, and right down the road, maybe 10, 12 minutes, is a place called Carlsbad Village. And so, if you don't know this place is here and you're driving again down the coast, you probably are going to miss it, which would be horrible for you if you're traveling through California or Southern California, because this place is super cool. Everything you could think of, all kinds of locally owned restaurants and really cool little shops and just, a lot of good people watching, if I'm being honest with you. And the thing I love the best, to be honest, McGraw, is there's free parking. Now, I travel all over, and I got to tell you, a lot of places are just, they want the extra change out of your car, or in some cases, a lot of change out of your car. Free parking in Carlsbad, to me, was absolutely awesome because it drives me crazy. Maybe this is just me, but if I'm going to go spend money at a restaurant or I'm going to a museum or whatever, I shouldn't have to pay to go and spend more money in your town. So it drives me crazy. So I don't know. It's a passion for me to.
I've never heard. I would think, right? I don't. That sounds like. Is that on their slogan? Is that on their Chamber of Commerce website, and free parking to boot?
No, but you heard it here first, maybe from Bill on the Road. But it is. It's. For people who are visiting, especially, it's just a nice thing because you're there to spend some money, and I think it's nice that they're not going to try to screw you over and charge you for parking. I don't know. That's a nice thing.
Hey, well, let me ask you, you have a couple things you wanted to plug, but let me ask you just the real estate. Is it high end? Is it luxury? Are they $1 million homes or, I guess, $1 billion homes, or is it much more reasonable?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I think there's higher end homes, which you're going to find really all up and down the Pacific coast. But then, once you kind of go inland a little bit, there are other cities, other municipalities, certain neighborhoods where middle class people can live. Now, I'll just be honest with you. California is expensive to live in. I mean, it is. I lived here when I was very young, and I had to move out of California, right after high school, because I thought there's no way that I want to live here as an 18-year-old with 12 roommates to be able to afford the rent in some apartment, So yeah, it's a little more expensive in Southern California, but the locals will tell you that it is totally worth it, and I can see the point when you see the sun coming up over the ocean every day, great food everywhere. And of course, the weather is fantastic most of the year.
Yeah. What's this? Are you seeing any surfers? That has to be a lot of surfers over there.
Yeah, Carlsbad is really big on surfing. They tried to get me to do a surfing lesson, and I said, I don't think you've seen me. I'm not cut out for surfing. But it's a big deal here. And what's really funny, McGraw, I say it's funny because I've never seen it, but locals, I'm sure, are used to this. I kept seeing people on their bicycles, right? So they'd go down to the beach, and they had these contraptions on the side of their bicycles to put their surfboards. So you see people on the roads riding their bicycles, and you see a surfboard alongside of the parallel to the bike. I just thought that was hilarious. But yeah, they love it. It's a big part of the culture here. Locals who like real surfers, they do what's called dawn patrol. And so basically what that is, you're surfing like just before the sun comes over the horizon in the morning. It's a great time apparently to be out on the water and kind of get your day started. But yeah, I saw people surf. The waves were huge. Like I don't know the science behind it. I couldn't give you the how high they were or whatever. But as you're standing on the shore looking out at the ocean, you can see why they picked this place to surf because the waves are just huge. But yeah, it's a really big deal here.
All right, good. All right, so did you see any quirky museums, any roadside attractions that you need to report on?
Well, I will tell you, the hidden gem of Carlsbad, and yeah, the local Chamber of Commerce may not agree with this, but that's okay. There is a place called the Miniature Engineering Craftsmanship Museum, okay? And it's kind of tucked away in like an industrial area, maybe not an industrial area, like commercial buildings, office buildings and stuff. But they have their own building, and so basically what this is, it's guys who can build stuff, like real men, right? That can build things, and you would appreciate this because I know you like to build stuff, but. So, for example, the probably the most valuable thing that they have in their museum, and you have to remember, so all of these things are like fine scale miniatures, right? So everything is small versions of everything, and so I think like the biggest thing or the most maybe high end thing that they had was a 1/6 scale 1932 Duesenberg SJ car that took 10 years, 40 hours a week, and 6,000 parts to build from scratch. It was unbelievable. And all of these things, cars, boats, motors, engines, airplanes, all over the place. Stuff was motorized and things were moving, but it was all tiny, and all of these tiny little parts these people made from scratch. Now it's not just wood, but like metals and aluminum. It was unbelievable, and they had it where like you'd walk by certain things, and there'd be like motion detectors would set off a display case, and all of a sudden you got carousels spinning around and robots moving. And I'm telling you, the place was so cool. It was my favorite thing in all of Carlsbad. I just thought it was amazing.
And it's a team of engineers, or one person builds one of these things? I mean, it sounds very labor intensive.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. Well, so the car that I mentioned, it took took a guy 10 years to build this thing. It's like 40 hours a week. Yeah, so all of these things take a long time to build. These are guys. Let's just be honest. It's a lost art. Like there are not a lot of people doing this anymore. These were mostly, guys from days gone by who would build these things that had the time and the patience and the know-how. To be honest with you, they unlike me, they paid attention in shop class apparently, and just built these things. So it's a huge collection of these things. And honestly, I told the guy when I made contact with him initially, I said, I just want to come by for a quick visit, maybe 20 minutes. Or he said, you won't be able to stay in here for 20 minutes. This is like a 2-hour thing. And I didn't understand it until I walked in, and I thought, holy cow, unbelievable, super, super cool.
It's model airplanes and model cars, right? Handmade? Handmade?
Exactly. So when you say model car, model airplane, we tend to think, oh, it's like from a kit, right? You buy it at the hobby shop and you put it together. No, these are people that like would track down the the design from I don't know what you call it in cars, but like an architect, like the person that puts this, that designs these things, and then they would go and they would build them in tiny form using kind of like the real materials and all from scratch. It's unbelievable. So excited to be in this place. I love it.
What's the name of it called again?
Yeah, they need to get a better name, to be quite honest with you, because it's kind of hard to remember it all. It is the Miniature Engineering Craftsmanship Museum. Maybe it's okay. Maybe the problem is me. But yeah, it is fantastic, and I'll be posting some photos in the next day or two on my Bill on the Road Facebook page.
And it's in Carlsbad, California. How long has it been there? Has it been there a while?
Yeah, I think this particular one has been there since like 2010, something like that. So it's been around, and it's a pretty big collection. And so yeah, oh man, dude, it was so cool. I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Did you have a book signing in Carlsbad, California?
I did have a book signing, at the Carlsbad Public Library. It was really nice. These were some really great people, and I had a nice crowd. Not a huge crowd, but I bet there were probably 30 or so people that came out, and they were all really nice and did my presentation for my new book, and it was cool, and sold all my copies. That's the most important part.
Absolutely, yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to recreate your book 1/6 miniature scale out of paper. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, these fine scale, to be qualified as like a fine scale miniature, things actually have to move. You know what I'm saying? So these people will they'll have like their special magnifying glasses on and have to build these things. If it's a piano, for example, all the keys have to move up and down like a real piano. I mean, it's unbelievable. These people are incredible artists.
Kind of like building a ship in a bottle or something, right?
There were ships. I'm telling you, there were ships too.
Right. What is you sent me a note that Carlsbad, California has alkaline water. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I did this thing. It was called a Carlsbad food tour. I don't know if you've ever done a food tour in a town or not, but I hadn't. And so I went on this thing. It was like 3 hours. You pop into 5 or 6 restaurants. You do little samples of the things here and there. But it was also a walking tour. So we went all around Carlsbad, kind of learned about the history. And apparently back in like 1882, there's a guy named John Fraser. And so this guy drills a well on his farm and finds out that the water has got similar minerals to this famous European spa town in the Czech Republic. And the name of that town was called Carlsbad. And so that's how they got the name of the town. But the water, because of the quality of this water, and because alkaline water is apparently very good for you, back then at least, they called it, we're telling people it had healing powers. And so this guy, clearly a great entrepreneur and a great marketer, started bottling it and would sell it to people at the local train station, and to the point where when trains would come through Carlsbad, all these people would demand that they stop in Carlsbad so they could load up on this bottled water. And so, but the well's still there. I mean, it's kind of like when I was in Hot Springs a few weeks ago in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Remember, I told you people showed up with their jugs. Same deal. People show up every day with jugs. It costs like $1, and you fill your jug up with the alkaline water from the well. Same well that this guy drilled back then.
That's interesting. I was in Fatima, which was north of Portugal, and they have a fountain there, right? And it's all holy water. And you bring your jug and you fill up and you have the holy water from Fatima. So I guess kind of the same thing, right? It's healing powers.
Well, I don't know how holy it is, but it was it was good for
very
you.
good. All right, that's Bill on the road in Carlsbad, California. That's a nice tour stop. Where's next week?
I am headed to Channel Islands National Park. I'm on a quest to go to all the national parks. So it'll be my 33rd national park in Ventura County, California.
Aren't there like 400 national parks?
Well, okay, McGraw. So here we go. So there are over 400 national park sites. However, there are only 63 national parks. So over half.
What's the difference between a site and a park?
Oh, good God, I don't know. Some congressman paid a lot of money apparently to get a national. That's how the Gateway Arch apparently. That's a national park.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Why is that a national park? I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
but anyway,
because they
all
said
I
it
care
was.
about is I've got 33 under my belt, and I'm sure there's some prize at the end.
All right, ladies, and do you have the book and you get the stamp every time you visit one?
No, I don't. But you know what I do? I take a photo of myself in front of the national park sign.
Gotcha.
There's the big signs out front, so I got one for every single one.
Bill on the road and around the world. BillOnTheRoad.com. He is the America at Night correspondent, traveling and spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of travel. BillOnTheRoad.com every Thursday. Safe travels, Bill. We'll check in with you next Thursday.
All right. Hope you learned something, McGraw.
There you go. It was good. The Miniature Museum, the Miniature Engineering Craftsmanship Museum. Next time I'm near Carlsbad, I'll check it out. Good work. Thanks, Bill.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
There you go. America at Night. Back in a moment.
From the heart of America, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, we'll take open phones next hour. We got some texts coming in all day long and during the show. 1-844-2-McGraw. This one, we got a lot of texts that are similar to this one. Hello, McGraw. I think that they're going to find that illegals are involved with the lady's kidnapping. What are your thoughts? Look, no matter how this turns out, if it turns out that some undocumented workers went in or criminals came in, came over the border, ended up in Tucson and looking for something and tried to break into the house and something terrible happened, people are going to spin it like no one's business. If it turns out to be some MAGA crazed, mentally unstable person who somehow has a vendetta against Savannah Guthrie because she said something negative about Donald Trump and went after her mother, right? That's going to be spun in an insane way. So no matter how this turns out, This poor family is going to be inundated and be run through the grist mill for our own political tomato throwing. So I that's what I feel bad, right? No matter how it turns out, right? If the guy has a Muslim sounding name, it's going to be portrayed one way. If it's a Latino sounding name, it's going to be another way. If it's a magging loving crazy, it's going to be another name. If it's a liberal, somebody who's big with Antifa, it's going to be spun another way. And that's just unfortunately the way the world works today. But however it turns out. But now we're in coming up on a week, and they still have nothing. I watched that news conference today. They've got nothing. They've got no leads. They got no suspects. They have no proof of life. They have no video. They got nothing. They have nothing. They've got a couple of ransom notes that they don't even know if they're real or not. Stay right there. Open phones next hour. Alex Hinton is our executive director. Richard Good is our engineer. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
All right, welcome back. It's Thursday night, hour number 3, which means it's open phones. I do talking for the first 2 hours. You guys talk for the last hour. Open phones means exactly that. Whatever you guys want to talk about. Somebody can go rogue, something about in the news of the day, something you've got on your mind, some quirky joke you got. Who knows what it may be, but we're open phones means open phones. Also, text, too. Text your comments to text your comments, sorry. Here's the phone number, 1-844-262-4729. Call or text. And don't let the text take the place of the call. I love the call. Now, before we go to the phones here real quick, let me just say this. So if you're listening to us and you never plan on calling in, which is fine, you never plan on texting, but you like the show and you want to know what we're talking about tonight, we have set up a response. Alex and Richard have set up a response. So if you text rundown to 844-262-4729, just text rundown, and then we'll send you a prompt. You respond yes to that prompt, and then you'll be opting in. Every day we will send a rundown of what's on the show tonight, so you can get a sense of what we're going to talk about tonight, right? That changes throughout the day depending on the news and the lineup and everything else as we put the show together throughout the day. But you can sort of get a sense of what we're talking about each night. So just text rundown, RUNDOWN, rundown to 844-262-4729, and you can opt in for the then opt in with a yes. You can opt out anytime you want, but it's a chance to be a part of the show, and we'll use that for all sorts of things, contests in the future, and maybe some promotional items and sponsors and things like that. But that's a way to be part of the show and to keep in contact with everybody. So we look forward to that as well. Let's go to the phones here. We've got Joe in Salem, Arkansas. Joe, welcome to America at Night. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, McCabe, for a second hour of calls.
You betcha.
Here in the Mid-South, a bunch of us do not get the third hour. It's, I don't know, we get an answer machine, so hard to comment on the subject matter of the first and second hour. So that's going to be handy. Now, I give kudos to Bezos, and I don't usually do that. Getting rid of the sports section might be good for his paper because there's a lot of people. I don't mean to offend the audience or yourself. I know you're into spectator sports.
Sure.
But I grew up in South St. Louis on the Cardinals on my transistor. That was my lullaby to get me to sleep, and my dad was obsessed with the baseball Cardinals. Now, that being said, I finally grew up and got interested in other matters, and I'm calling you from a sports news talk station because it comes in really well and it has your show on it. But I could do with, when the Cardinals get rolling here in the spring. We get 6 or 8 hours of the Cardinal Network, and I mean enough is enough. Exactly right.
So let me get this straight. You think there's too much sports out there?
Amen. And the sports, especially the blood sports, destroyed the Roman Empire. And people are getting their brains numb. They don't want to talk about politics and what's really going on in their nation. They want to talk about those Cardinals.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals ain't like they were when I grew up. I mean, I miss Stan Musial and Lou Brock and a bunch of them,
So listen to this story. I have a basement, and my 5-year-old daughter, we have a swing down there. And so she likes to go down and swing in the basement. And I've got all my baseball memorabilia all over the walls. And I have a giant poster of Stan Musial, and you know the one I'm talking about. It's the cover of the Saturday Evening Post, where Stan Musial is standing there talking to the kids in the stands, right? You know that Saturday Evening Post cover.
I remember that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. You were probably you probably got it delivered to your house, the original issue. But I have it as a big giant poster, and it's signed by Stan Musial, and it's on the wall. And when we swing, her feet get close to that framed poster. And matter of fact, tonight she said, Daddy, I know I will never touch that. I will never break that. That is your pride and joy.
Hey, have you ever ate at his restaurant in St. Louis?
No, Stan Musial's restaurant's long gone. That was long gone. I did interview him a couple times, and I saw him play Take Me Out of the Ball Game with his harmonica. Had a chance to interview him a couple times. One of the nicest men you'll ever meet. One of the nicest, most genuine, kind-hearted, caring men you'll ever have the chance to meet, and a true giant. But I mean, look, nothing is as good as your youth. And Joe, I don't know. I just think the fifth major market in America, their major newspaper, doesn't have a sports department. How are you going to cover any of the sports teams, any of the college teams, any of the high school sports? I mean, that's crazy.
Well, you just don't. I really liked playing baseball and softball and stuff when I grew up. And I especially liked in high school, of all things, bowling, because I just imagined all 10 evil pins,
Yeah.
When you strike them just right, they just go crazy, But that gave me an adrenaline rush, along with baseball.
Are you an Arkansas Razorback fan?
Not really, no.
Right.
I sure am not.
All right.
I mean, they go nuts down here. Yeah, it's crazy. But
I hear you.
I'm just not a spectator fan anymore. But what can I say? I'd like to see more politics, news, interview. I like your interviews. However, boy, that'd be nice if your 1 hour of calls would be the second hour or the first. I mean, either one.
Yeah, but, well, we're trying. Yeah, Joe, it's hard to sort of accommodate everybody. But we do what we can. Sign up for the rundown, Joe. Thanks for the phone call, David. You got it, David in San Francisco. Welcome to America at Night. Hello.
Oh, thanks, McGraw. Yeah, and I think I've mentioned before I was from St. Louis. And let's see, Lou Brock lived right down the street. So that was pretty nice.
There's another one who was the nicest man in the world.
Sure, yeah. And man, could he? Yeah, stealing bases, that was his specialty. Hey, well, let's see. What I was interested in, there were two things. You were talking about the California coastline with your guest earlier.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that about halfway down California in the Monterey Bay, that's the spawning ground for much of the Pacific Ocean. The baby fish grow up there, and so that coastline not only is beautiful, but it is functioning worth hundreds of billions of dollars and the food of the world, so to speak, because the Pacific Ocean, this is the spawning ground on this side of the continent. And guess who just allowed for oil drilling right north of the spawning ground, right to the south of it, right by the nuclear power plant? Donald Trump has now decided to allow and force oil drilling into California. Now, it's not just bad enough that he's risking the world's fish, or the Pacific anyway, and but that he's also the value of that land. If you have one big oil spill, the property values, even if you're living on a cliff looking over a mucky ocean with oil rigs, what's the value of that? You lose your $1 million view, and everybody says, "Get me out of here." You come up with oil-soaked birds every week. So, this idea that Donald Trump claims to be a businessman, but he's putting far more at risk than what he hopes to build by drilling off the coast of California. The other thing I was going to raise, have you kept up with the polar vortex?
I've been covering the super duper double vortex. I don't know what the double vortex is. What's that? What's the polar? You mean the cold front that came through the country? Yeah.
Well,
a little bit. I experienced it. It was really cold and really annoying. So I paid a little bit of attention to it.
The real polar vortex is like a huge, you might look at it as a huge tornado straight north of the North Pole, right? The Earth is spinning and the wind up there spins also, and it's extremely cold. And it's a huge V, like a whirlpool. And the ambient air in the entire world now is getting so warm that the polar vortex is losing its shape. And it's falling apart. It's sloshing. Right now it's split, and it's the first split that the weather forecasters have ever noticed, apparently. And what's horrible, of course, DOGE cut the budget for the National Weather Bureau, so America is now blind. Basically, we're having to rely on other agencies for what their data comes in. But the name of the game is that when the polar vortex gets whacked around by warm air, it sloshes, great big chunks of cold air slosh all over. And it sloshed down to Florida. It sloshed down to Texas about 10 years ago.
Well,
So it's big in the news in the scientific world, but it really needs to get talked about. We got to plant trees toot sweet. We got spring coming in. Go out there and gather your acorns or your maple squirts or whatever, and get them out there and start scattering them over the empty land. We got to get trees in.
Dave, more importantly, are you going to the game on Sunday?
Well, it's funny. I helped build it. I work at the convention center, so I was working on the America's 250th birthday booth.
Oh, how about that? All right. All right. Well, be safe. Have a good weekend. You're the epicenter of the entire universe for the Super Bowl out there in San Francisco and the Bay Area. Hey, Dave, thanks for checking in. Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good night, America.
Yeah, have a good night. All right, America at Night. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Call or text. Comments on phone calls. Love them both. Open phones. Keep it going. America at Night. Back in a moment.
Join the conversation. Call 844-2-McGraw. America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Join the conversation. Call 844-2-McGraw. America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Yeah, call or text. 1-844-2-McGraw. 1-844-262-4729. I have a new hero. I have a new hero. His name is Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos. Have you seen this guy running point on this Nancy Guthrie story? He held a news conference today. It was about a good hour. And if you watched any of this live, you have to agree with me. If you didn't see it live, you probably saw clips of it somewhere along the line. This guy, Sheriff Chris Nanos, I mean, right out of Central Casting, the way he handled this news conference, It was a masterclass. It was the people of Tucson, Arizona, get down on your knees and thank God you have this man who is your sheriff. Because this guy, this guy, the way he handled the questions, the way he handled the news media, the way he handled the FBI, the way he was deft at moving in and out, the way he had patience for the questions. He respected all the journalists. He knew the local journalists. He clearly has a good working relationship with the journalists. He understands that journalists are just doing their job and they have to ask the same question 6 different times and they need follow-ups. And this guy, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, off the charts. Man, this guy's fantastic. What a star in the making this guy is. Oh my goodness. What an utter total gentleman. He also mentioned in this news conference, even though there is no new news, that somebody was arrested. Somebody was arrested for sending a fake ransom note. And when we come back, I'll tell you the story. I don't have enough time to tell you right now, but it is really unbelievable that somebody would do what they did, right? They've gotten a couple of ransom notes, one that went to TMZ, and then there were rumors about another ransom note. Well, wait till you find out what happened. Do I have enough time? I don't have enough time. I'll get it started if I can. But so they announced that they arrested somebody who sent a fake ransom note. So what does that mean? It's a real ransom note, but they were just doing it to cause trouble. It was an imposter. They had no, they didn't take her. It's sort of weird to say a real ransom note, right? It was the person who's is just looking to make a quick buck, maybe try and anonymously make trouble, right? Who knows if they really thought they were ever going to get a payoff, but they were just like hackers hacking into the system to try and just cause trouble. So here's what happened. Do I have enough time? Apparently, the sister, Annie Guthrie, and the brother-in-law, the son-in-law, Tommaso Sassoni, I think that's how you say his name, they both got a text. Remember last night when they released that video? Well, shortly after that, they both got a text on their phone line. And it said, "Did you get the Bitcoin we are waiting for on our end for the transaction?" Holy mackerel. So they send out this heartbreaking message on Instagram last night. We played it. And then shortly thereafter, they get a text from on their phone saying, "Did you get the Bitcoin we were waiting for on our end for the transaction?" So law enforcement tracks it down. Turns out it came from somebody's Gmail account. And they went to the guy's house, and they busted him. And the guy admitted, "Yeah, I sent the text. I got nothing. I was just looking to try and make a quick score." So this idiot hacks into their account, and then he tried to make a phone call to one of the phone numbers. I don't know how he got their phone number. I don't know how he hacked into him. Somehow he got it. But it was just a fake ransom note looking to try and make a quick score on some Bitcoin. He was arrested. Good for him. But this is what they're dealing with. And you just have to man, some people are so disgusting. But they have no news. We'll take more phone calls. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Or text your comments to 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Stay right there. America at Night. Back in a moment.
What's on your mind? Call 844-2-McGraw and be a part of America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Also, don't forget about the text. We love the text, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Here's a text from Mississippi, from the 662 area code. Here's a fun fact. Eric Erickson just said on his radio show today that he himself was in the Epstein files. Okay? Just because you're in the Epstein... anyway, finish reading it here. He himself was in the Epstein files. They should read every name in the files and what political party they are. I bet it's more Democrats than not. Look, here's the deal on the Epstein files. We need to, we're not going to, but we need to stop looking at this through the prism of political and or partisan politics. We need to look at this as a crime scene, because that's what it is. This was a man who abused women. Forget who and what party the guilty are from. Because what kind of sick human being says, oh, well, he's on my team, so let's not go after him. But there's somebody who was taking advantage of these women who play for the other team. Let's go and get them. That is a sick way of looking at this story. Who cares what party they're from if they have been found to do something that is completely inappropriate? Who cares? Who cares, right? This whole world seems like if my guy does it, I don't care. If my guy shoots somebody on Fifth Avenue, I don't care. But if your guy shoots somebody on Fifth Avenue, oh, man, you're the downfall of Western civilization. Are you kidding me? Even to the point, do you remember the guy during one of the elections where he thought Hillary Clinton was running some type of child pornography sex ring in the bottom of a pizza place in Washington, D.C.? Right? Clearly the man had some mental health issues. But the only person not in the vials so far is Hillary Clinton. All the other people, right? You're worried about Hillary Clinton running a pedophile scam. She wasn't mentioned in it. All these other people are. Why aren't you worried about any of the other people who are mentioned in this thing? So sick and tired of people trying to sort of, oh, how many Democrats are in there? Oh, my guy's a Republican. Let's not talk about him. If you're going to call Clinton, call Trump. If you're going to call Hillary, call Melania. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's find out. Why do we know all these people who are innocent? Let's find out the people who are guilty. Why is it that Keir Starmer in Great Britain is about to be forced to resign as prime minister? He wasn't mentioned in these files, but the other guy was. And Keir Starmer was close to him. So Keir Starmer had nothing to do with this, but he was affiliated with it. They're freaking out over in Great Britain. Prince Andrews lost his title, got kicked out of the house. And on this side of the country, we're being told, well, it's time to move on. Wait, what? Let's go after Bill Clinton, but let's not go after my guy. Are you kidding me? This is the most disgusting crimes, and it continues to happen. It continues to happen over and over again. And supposedly, all these people were all about going to find the child pedophiles in our government. Well, we're really not doing a good job of doing it, aren't we? Tony, welcome to America at Night.
How you doing? That's one powder keg of political, I don't know what you want to call it, ambition on either side. And the only thing I'll say about that, McGraw, I don't care what gender, I don't care where you're from, I don't care what country you're from, I don't care what political affiliation. If you violate anybody in any way in a criminal matter, you should face the law. And that doesn't just mean child abuse. It means any criminal activity. Whoever you are, you have to face justice.
Right, but we all agree that this is the worst of the worst, right? Taking advantage of young girls, grooming young girls, right? This is, of all the disgusting crimes, this is the most disgusting. And we can all agree. And yet, time and time again, we consistently look the other way. We have leaders who don't know what's going on. And look, it's the Catholic Church, it's the Baptists, it's Penn State, it's Ohio State, the wrestling team, it's the Michigan State with the gymnastics, it's the Boy Scouts, it's Elon Musk and Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and Bill Gates and Woody Allen and Prince Andrew and all of these people who are supposed to be really smart people. All of these things happened right under their nose, and they never saw it. Why do nobody ever see this? Why is it always a cover-up? Why is nobody in any of these scenarios over the last 20 years ever stood up and said, boy, there's something foul going on here, and we got to get to the bottom of this?
Well,
how is that possible?
I think that you probably just hit the nail on the head. It seems to be that a lot of this nefarious conduct is perpetrated by people that are in high places, and sometimes very difficult to reach those high places with regular prosecutors. And I think what you just said, I mean, I don't have any information on all of the names that you mentioned, and obviously the information will come out in the wash if there's more documentation to follow. But I agree with you. Anything to do with child abuse is probably at the peak of disgusting behavior.
And yet no one ever stands up for the kids. No one ever stands up for the kids.
I wasn't going to talk about this tonight, but McGraw, you have to understand my background was in law for 30 years, retired now, and I did a lot of work for Indigenous children and abused children. And let me tell you something. What you're talking about is a true statement of societal issues and societal sickness. And the question is, has this been going on for millennium, and we've never seen it in the prior millennium times, or is it because we have media that exposes it and the internet has opened this up? It's a very interesting societal question, and probably some PhDs will probably figure this out.
Well, I mean, look, hold on a second. While I'm on this rant, and while you guys got me riled up, Robert Kraft, owner of the Patriots, right? He gets busted going to the Asian day spa. The massage ladies end up going to jail. He ends up going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. Right? I mean, here in Missouri last summer, there was a story where a couple of teachers ended up with an OnlyFans account. And so they signed up for OnlyFans. They lost their jobs because the teachers were going on this OnlyFans and having an OnlyFans account and doing some, private things in these websites. None of the men who went lost their jobs. Right? None of the men who paid these women lost their jobs, but the women who got paid, they were ridiculed, disgraced, lost their careers, never to be heard from again. The men, no one ever heard about them. Right? Why do we always blame the women? Why do the women always get charged? Why do the Johns never end up on the front page of the newspaper? Why do they never get charged?
You answered that question yesterday. You said Robert Kraft had some damn good lawyers, and obviously the regular people in the world can't hire the best attorneys in the world or multiple attorneys. And you can go back to the OJ trial where you had the OJ all-star team of lawyers that made a name for themselves until most of them died. They were still considered top-notch attorneys. But I just wanted to quickly say one thing. Today in Montreal, a group of people called Robin des Ruelles, it means Robin Hood of the lanes or Robin Hood of the alleyways, decided that they would be thieves taking out thieves. In other words, they sold thousands and thousands of dollars from Rachel Berry. Rachel Berry is a very uppity and high-end, bio store for food. And they redistributed most of this food, they say, to the underprivileged of Montreal, left it at housing projects. But, it's the old story. If you're on illegal land, then nothing that we do is illegal. And they decided that they would redistribute wealth, and they did so because they believed that corporate entities that own these large supermarkets were corrupt and taking advantage of people. So we will thieve from the thieves, and the SPVM, which is the Montreal Police, has not arrested these people whatsoever. They have them on film, and they went in wearing red feathers and mimicking the band of Robin Hood's Goodfellows. And, the Montreal people that were interviewed on the radio today, some are for this and some are not. And it goes back to criminality. Where is the line of criminality? I mean, who determines whether you're rich or poor? And if you're determined to be rich or poor, let's say someone says McGraw is really rich. Well, maybe McGraw should give us one of his cars, or someone that's really well-to-do. We should just take whatever he has. If you're a corporation and you're well-to-do, then we should take half of your assets. It comes down to this nonsense now. We don't have any bearing. There's no bearings anymore.
Tony, thank you for the phone call. I hate to cut you off, but you get going, and I got a break. So, Tony, thanks for checking in as always. Appreciate the thoughts. Hillary Clinton's said, I'm on her side. If Bill and Hillary are going to testify, I think it should be open to the public. Why should this not be open to the public? This is not a national security issue. And they want all the files exposed, right? They voted, and everybody voted, signed by the president, expose all the files. Here's the first time you're going to have somebody under oath talking about the Epstein files. This absolutely should be public. We should have a right to know. Here's the former president of the United States and the former Secretary of State who are testifying about one of the most vile human beings this country has ever produced. And there's all sorts of questions about the who, what, when, where, and why. And if the Republicans are going to call him in for a deposition and they're going to go, great. We should be allowed to watch it. What's the argument for keeping it behind closed doors? Hillary Clinton says, let's do it. Let's have it all. Let's have it all out in the open, and let's go from there. Right? You want to get to the bottom of the Epstein files, or are you going to be like everybody else who sort of covers it up, who looks the other way, who that's my friend. Oh, I really liked him. Oh, I really like being having access to power. Or are you going to be on the side of the women who were taken advantage of? Let's get it out in the open. Let's find out. Let's find out what Bill and Hillary say under oath. I'm all for it. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. America at Night. Back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Happening in your world. Call 844-2-McGraw and be a part of America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, 1-844-2-McGraw. Text your comments, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. This one is from somewhere in Missouri. Comer wants to leak selectively. Yeah, James Comer, the House Oversight Committee chairman, who wants to have these Hillary and Bill hearings or this deposition in private. You know who doesn't want Bill and Hillary testifying? Donald Trump. Donald Trump said, I'm not happy about this. I like Bill Clinton. So Donald Trump now coming to Bill Clinton's and Hillary's defense. He doesn't think they should testify in this Epstein file. Stay tuned for all that. Hey, how about this story? So just breaking tonight, Argentina and the United States have signed a sweeping trade deal. The deal is set to help Argentina, America's third largest trading partner, or the third largest economy in South America, by reducing tariffs and expanding the exports and imports. Argentina and the United States have cut a deal, signing such an expansive trade deal that they're tearing down long-time tariffs and barriers to the Argentine country. This is a deal between President Trump and President Milei of Argentina. And now, apparently, the U.S. would eliminate reciprocal tariffs on over 1,600 Argentinian products. A deal would also mean to attract greater American investment into Argentina. And Argentina will eliminate over 200 tariffs on American products, including machinery, transport equipment, pharmaceuticals, and chemical products. Argentine industrialists have long shielded a sweeping trade deal. They've expressed concern over competing with imports, while free traders say it's time for Argentina to open up. This is great news. There's a free trade deal between a major economy in South America and the United States. There's only one problem. Donald Trump was all about tariffs. I thought he was all about tariffs. Now he's all about free trade? You know who's not happy about this? The ranchers. The ranchers are not happy with this. Bill Bullard tells the New York Times, chief executive for RCAF USA, an organization of American cattle ranchers, when asked about the government to limit imports. He says, this is not what we need right now. This will further delay the rebuilding of our domestic herd. They're calling for a quota of Argentinian beef up to 100 tons. That's five-fold increase into the country. The policy is aimed at lowering beef prices for the U.S. consumers. Well, that's good if you're a U.S. consumer. That's bad if you're a rancher selling your cattle. So the American ranchers not happy. Great, we're cut a free trade deal with Argentina. You weren't a free trader. Now he's a free trader. He wants to get beef prices down in America. Who do you hurt? American ranchers. Go figure. For every yin, there's a yang, right? For everything that free trade helps, there's somebody else who hurts. It's not an easy game. It's kind of hard to sort of figure, right? You help somebody, you hurt somebody else. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's a lot more difficult. The closer you get to the situation, right, you're all about tariffs on China, except when it hurts the soybean farmer. And they end up buying soybeans from Brazil and Argentina and not the United States of America. But wait, I'm for free trade. Free trade is good overall, but there are winners and losers. Tariffs, yeah, they're good for some people, bad for other people. Overall good, overall bad, depends on where you sit. It ain't easy. It's not an easy conversation, and it's not an easy, there's pros and cons to both. But nobody wants to look at it that way. It's black or white, all good or all bad. Anyway, well, that's about going to do it for us. I want to thank a couple of our guests tonight. Bill Clevlin, thanks for checking in. Bill on the road. Greg Chan, owner of Penny the Doberman that won the Westminster Kennel Club. Margaret Sullivan from the Washington Post. And Jonathan Cohen talking about Kalshi and those poly markets out there for the Super Bowl. Tomorrow on the show, stick around. We're going to check in with Andrew Morton. How is this Epstein scandal playing over in England as Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, just might lose his job over it? That's tomorrow night, plus your phone calls. Executive Director is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. Thanks for listening and thanks for joining the ride each and every night. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.